Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, former President Donald Trump is back in court for day 2 of jury selection in his hush money trial. Plus, the U.S. Senate receives the articles of impeachment against Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. More about what could happen next as senators prepare to be sworn in as jurors.
Plus, we are tracking some spotty rain and storm chances by Wednesday. Your first alert forecast coming up as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to southern and eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. We begin with a developing story out of Knox County tonight. A man has died following a farming incident. Knox 911 received a call from someone about a man being found in a cow pasture earlier this afternoon. The caller told 911 he was going to check on 81-year-old William Mills when the caller realized Mills had been pinned. Mills had parked the tractor, but the trailer the tractor was hauling came loose and backed into Mills, causing him to be pinned between the trailer and a gate post. Mills was pronounced dead at the scene.
We are tracking some summer-like conditions on this Tuesday evening. A live look across the region, and we are dry under some sunshine. Also very warm on this Tuesday. Highs should be close to 70, but check this out. Most of us in the middle to even upper 80s in some areas. Floyd County up to 87, up to 86 in Moorhead, also for Jackson, and 84 over in Somerset. So we stay warm as we go into this evening. Those lows are back in the middle 60s to wake up on Wednesday. Up on first alert pinpoint Doppler. Had a few showers and storms in the Big Sandy Valley earlier this evening, but for now we are dry. But we cannot say the same for our friends off to the north and west. Notice this big spin in the atmosphere, an upper level low producing some severe weather in Iowa, pushing into Illinois, also Missouri. And this weather system is moving into our direction as we go into your Wednesday. It will weaken, but still it could possibly produce a few strong storms as we go into tomorrow on Wednesday. All of us have a level 1 marginal risk of severe weather in place. Not everyone will see severe weather. Most of us have no impacts with this system, but maybe a strong storm or two as we go into parts of your Wednesday. More details on that strong storm chance, plus a cooler weekend coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
Cameron, thank you. Day 2 of former President Donald Trump's historic trial in New York is highlighting just how hard it can be to find an impartial jury. Trump is the first former president to face criminal charges. CBS's Michael George reports from New York.
Former President Donald Trump railed against the charges he faces, returning to the courtroom in Manhattan Tuesday.
This is a trial that should have never been brought.
The presumptive Republican presidential nominee is facing 34 felony counts related to alleged hush money payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels through his former lawyer Michael Cohen. Prosecutors say it was an attempt to cover up an alleged affair ahead of the 2016 presidential election. Trump denies any wrongdoing.
I was paying a lawyer and marked it down as a legal expense. Some accountant, I didn't know, marked it down as a legal expense. That's exactly what it was. And you get indicted over that?
More potential jurors were excused Tuesday, some after saying they could not be impartial. On Monday, more than 50 potential jurors were excused for that same reason.
What this underscores is it going to take time to choose a jury.
I really wanted to be on the jury. It would have been so interesting.
Kara McGee was excused because of work issues.
Honestly, after seeing the other jurors read the questionnaire and hearing how committed they also were to focusing on the evidence and focusing on the right to a fair trial, I actually do believe that he can get an impartial jury in Manhattan.
This is the first of Trump's 4 criminal cases to go to trial, and may be the only one that sees a verdict reached before the November election. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
We understand 6 jurors were seated today. Prosecutors want Trump to be held in contempt for violating a gag order after he slammed Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen on social media last week. Both are potential witnesses in the case. A hearing on that will be held later this month. Senate Republicans are still trying to figure out a way to force Democrats in the Senate to take up the trial of Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas after he was impeached about his handling of the border. CBS's Natalie Brand has more on that from Capitol Hill.
Impeachment managers made the ceremonial walk from the U.S. House to the Senate, delivering articles of impeachment against Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
I announced the presence of managers on the part of the House of Representatives to conduct proceedings on behalf of the House concerning the impeachment of Alejandro Nicolas Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security.
Senators will be sworn in as jurors on Wednesday. Democratic Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he wants the issue addressed as quickly as possible.
Impeachment should never be used to settle a policy disagreement.
House Republicans accuse Mayorkas of not enforcing federal immigration laws and breaching public trust.
Alejandro N. Mayorkas' willful and systemic refusal to comply with the law has had a calamitous consequence for the nation.
GOP lawmakers are pushing for a full trial in the Senate, but some say they're concerned Democrats could table or dismiss the charges instead.
Immigration's one of the top issues across the country, and I think Schumer's going to do everything he can to avoid having those folks take a tough vote.
The politics of the issue was on full display as Mayorkas testified at a budget hearing Tuesday.
The open border is the #1 issue across America in poll after poll. And that is exactly why this committee impeached you.
Secretary Mayorkas defended his department's work and made the case for more funding.
With the resources and the authorities that we have been provided, it is as secure as we can make it.
The Biden administration calls the impeachment effort baseless and urges Republicans to pass legislation to help secure the border. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The Senate will swear in the jurors at 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow afternoon. Kentucky Representative Thomas Massie has joined the effort to oust House Speaker Mike Johnson. Massie told colleagues he's going to co-sponsor the motion to vacate introduced by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. A source told CNN Massie was booed after he made the announcement. Massie also told Johnson he should resign as Speaker.
You want him to resign? You want him to resign?
Yes. Yeah, I asked him to resign to this because the motion is going to get called, okay? Does anybody doubt that? The motion will get called, and then he's going to lose more votes than Kevin McCarthy. And I have told him this in private, like weeks ago.
Despite the growing threats, Johnson remains defiant. He says he is not resigning, arguing that the party needs steady leadership. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland defended the president's cognitive abilities during a House Appropriations meeting today. Garland told lawmakers on a House of Representatives panel that President Biden has expertly handled both foreign and domestic matters.
I have seen the president effectively guide the members of the department, of his cabinet and his military through.
But you won't say you've ever seen any impairment on his part?
The president has no impairment. The president.
You've never seen any?
I don't know how many ways I can say this.
Okay.
I have complete confidence in the president, and I reject your characterization.
Mental competency has become a major talking point in this year's presidential election. The United States expects that Israel's military response to the Iranian attack over the weekend will be limited in scope. That's according to a senior Biden administration official and a source familiar with the intelligence. That intelligence reportedly suggests that Israel is weighing a narrow and limited strike on Iran out of a need to respond to the unprecedented air assault. According to Israeli officials, more than 300 projectiles were fired at its territory. Alex Murdaugh is appealing the 40-year sentence he received earlier this month for financial crimes. The disgraced attorney is already serving 2 consecutive life sentences for the murders of his wife and son. In a separate case, Murdaugh pleaded guilty last year to nearly 24 financial crimes, including conspiracy, fraud, and money laundering. Prosecutors say he stole millions of dollars from his clients and former law firm. An audit into Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders' office has uncovered potential non-compliance with state law. The governor's office bought a nearly $20,000 lectern. According to the audit, improper records of the purchase were kept. The report found the lectern was paid for before it was delivered. The audit says Sanders' office needs to ensure all original documentation related to purchasing and delivering of goods is saved. Book banning is increasing at schools across the United States. According to a new report, there were 4,300 instances of book bans during the first half of this school year. That's already more than the entire 2022-23 school year. Florida topped the list with 3,100 bans in 11 school districts. It was followed by Wisconsin with 481 bans, Iowa with 142, and Texas with 141 bans. The report was compiled by PEN America, a century-old literary and free expression advocacy group. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, fraud on your child's credit report. It's possible with hackers going after kids' Social Security numbers. What you should do to prevent your child from becoming a victim of identity theft.
Plus, cooler conditions are on the way for this weekend. Your forecast coming up.